Hello guys, welcome back, and history continues to be made. Now I know I have a series to talk about Winnipeg versus Vegas, but I want to just start by talking about Vegas here. The Vegas Golden Knights have advanced to the Stanley Cup Final, and I'm making this about 4 hours after the game has ended, and it still has not sunken in yet. They're on to the Stanley Cup Final, which is just straight insane. Nobody predicted this. I, for sure, did not predict this. Even with the playoff predictions, I don't think a lot of people had Vegas going to the Stanley Cup. And even if the playoff predictions going into this playoffs, it still was a far-out bet that Vegas would actually pull it off and continue the magic throughout the playoffs here. So the fact that this fairy tale continues to go on, the fact that the Vegas Magic continues to stay strong is the thing that's most surprising to me. It hasn't stopped. They haven't really lost a big chunk yet, and they've won every single series. They're currently 3-0 in their playoff history, which, starting off, is pretty well. And most of the people in the hockey community thought that Vegas' magic would wear off a little bit, and it hasn't yet so far. But we have a Western Conference Final to talk about, and a very fun one at that. Now, the first game, Winnipeg Jets win 4-2. I felt like the Jets did deserve to win that game, but it was a close game. It started off a 3-0 Winnipeg game, but it felt a little bit more like Vegas was trading around, and they were looking a little bit better, but Winnipeg definitely had the advantage. I felt like they were the much better team. They definitely deserved to win that game. Fleury had a weird game. He wasn't bad, but I don't think like he was on his game. He didn't play like we've seen Fleury in this series and the past series. He had a pretty off game, which for the rest of the series wasn't that way, but he had an off game. Felt like Winnipeg Jets definitely deserved to get that win, but in game one, of course, going to Winnipeg 4-2. In game two, Vegas wins 3-1, but it was a closer game than game one. I felt like even though I still felt like Winnipeg had the advantage, I felt like Vegas was a lot more close than in game one. Winnipeg got unlucky quite a few times. Fleury made a couple of great saves, but Winnipeg hit the post quite a few times, which didn't really help them very much as they lost 3-1. Of course, much so with a couple of goals there. Looked great, but Fleury was a difference there as he made quite a few fantastic saves on guys like Line and Scheifele. And that game 3 was something special. The Vegas Golden Knights were able to win 4-2, but it was an amazing game. Fleury was on top of his game. Probably the best game that he's had in the playoffs so far. He didn't have to face too many shots, but the saves that he did make were incredible. So many Save of the Year candidates there that he made on that game, and he made 2, of course, back-to-back saves, which I think you've probably seen already. That just got me going, man. Those 2 saves went back and forth. I think with Scheifele, those 2 ones saved the game, and it felt like 2009 when he saved the game to get the Stanley Cup win against the Detroit Red Wings. He had an amazing game there. Guys like Marchessault also had a good game. He had scored 2 goals. But Fleury was fantastic, and for sure one of the best games that maybe he's even ever played. He had a brilliant game there. Now, game 4 was another great game. Fleury had another great game where he had tons of great saves. But the Winnipeg Jets, of course, with the Golden Knights, were 2-2 going with 7 minutes left until Byfuglien whiffs on a slap shot. Riley Smith comes up the breakaway and scores about 7 minutes left, and the Vegas Golden Knights win 3-2 after that goal. And you just see the repeating. You just see the broken record. The Golden Knights, they may not have outplayed the Winnipeg Jets. They might not have outplayed the San Jose Sharks. They probably outplay the LA Kings, let's be honest here, but they're just able to find a way to win games. You may say they might rely on Fleury too much, but they're finding ways to win games. That's really the most important thing, right? Winnipeg probably throughout the series played the better hockey here, but Marc-Andre Fleury and the Vegas Golden Knights were able to get it done, and especially in Game 5 when they probably shouldn't have won, they got it done, and in Game 4, it was just crazy. They got it done, which was the repeating factor throughout their whole playoff run so far. And in Game 5, they start out Alex Tuch taking the 1-0 lead for the Vegas Golden Knights. Then in the second period, Jake Morrissey with an absolute blast to make it 1-1. And then, the guy, Ryan Reeves, him gets the 2-1 marker off a beautiful tip. He's apparently making wizard stuff happen. I mean, this Vegas Golden Knights team is so weird that they'll make Ryan Reeves have a game winner to advance to the Stanley Cup Final. We saw Chris Kunitz do that in last season for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was a weird one. He wasn't the superstar on that team by all means, but now they have a Ryan Reeves, who they acquired from the Pittsburgh Penguins from the trade deadline, get the game-winning goal, 2-1, go on to the Stanley Cup Final. And I feel like Pittsburgh Twitter was pretty bad at that point, but Ryan Reeves, I love seeing a guy like him, who hasn't even gotten a goal for the Vegas Golden Knights until then, get the game winner there. And of course, the Vegas Golden Knights close it out and they advanced to the Stanley Cup final. They had Derek England touch the Clerics and Campbell Award. You've seen guys like Fleury do that, and Fleury, the 2 times that he won the cup was the 2. He was one that touched the Clarence Campbell both times. I don't know if he was the one, but the team that he was with, the Pittsburgh Penguins, touched the Clarence Campbell or whatever it was for the Eastern equivalent. They touched that trophy every single time. So Fleury, apparently, if he keeps going like that, will be 3 for 3 if their team touches the trophy, which advancing to the Stanley Cup final. You have all superstitions already, especially with Vegas. But it's also pretty interesting that they had England touch it as well. They might have him touch the Stanley Cup first. So if they're going to repeat that, I think that's very interesting that they had him touch the Clarence Campbell trophy. If it's going to repeat, if it's going to continue, they're probably going to have him as the first guy for the Stanley Cup, which I think is pretty decent in all honesty. But for this series, you got to give it to Fleury. He was the MVP throughout the series, and he's probably the leader for that MVP trophy. He is definitely the best player for the Vegas Golden Knights in that series. They had a lot of collected guys. Marchessault had a fantastic series, but Fleury was able to bail out the Vegas Golden Knights time after time again. He made save of the year saves time and time again. He had an impeccable series, and even though he had a crazy series against LA and San Jose, I still think that honestly this was his best series, facing against the Winnipeg Jets, one of the best offenses in the NHL, and was able to shut them down fairly well. I think this was definitely his best series. And that's saying a lot when he was putting up a .940 save percentage against the LA Kings. If he's going to put up those numbers against the LA Kings, I better have stats to back it up. But he had a fantastic series against Winnipeg. I definitely feel like he is the MVP so far, and he has to be. He has not really carried the Vegas Golden Knights, but as much as you can with a team that, of course, is an expansion team, but has played very well. Vegas is on a good spot right here, and Fleury is playing probably the best hockey of his career. The scariest teams are the one that have magic, have that magical goaltender, are able to score goals in the clutch, and that pretty much fills all the brackets for what Vegas is doing in the playoffs. Oh yeah, a little bonus that they have no injuries practically, and they have pretty much as much rest as you can possibly want going into the Stanley Cup final. They're looking as set as they could possibly be. Oh, and yeah, there's 100% going to be a movie. Even if they lose in the Stanley Cup final, it is for sure happening. There's too much money to be made with that. Now, on to Winnipeg. I felt like they had a good series. I felt like they outplayed the Vegas Golden Knights throughout most of these games, but did not have the Vegas reasons factor, did not have the Vegas luck on their side. Winnipeg, they might be playing the better hockey, but they were not able to win. They were not able to get those wins out, and that's what Vegas does. Vegas was able to win even if they were down, even if they didn't play the best, they were still able to win whenever they wanted, and Winnipeg, taking game 1, losing all the rest, they just did not have luck on their side throughout most of the series, and against Vegas, it's to be expected. And for Hellebuyck, who was the main reason why the Winnipeg Jets had gotten this far throughout both round 2 and round 1, I felt like he had an okay series. He had a couple good games there as well, but I felt like he had an okay series. Not what the Winnipeg Jets needed, though. They needed a lot better from Hellebuyck to match the stats and match the performance of Fleury. They needed a guy that would be a little bit closer to that. He was about league average, I'd say. He had a couple of great games, but he was not consistent throughout the whole series. He had quite a few bad goals let in. He was just not the goaltender that we saw in round 1 and round 2, where he was just dominating there. I think like Hellebuyck, if he played a lot better, if not quite Fleury range, but if he played around there, that Winnipeg would definitely have gone this a lot farther. Maybe 6, maybe 7. I felt like Hellebuyck was one of the reasons why Winnipeg kind of went down this fast. For the Winnipeg offense, again, they played pretty decent. I felt like they were playing like the better team, but the luck just was not on their side. They hit so many posts. They were just getting unlucky. Vegas defense was just there, and Fleury had one of the best series he's ever played as. And I feel like Winnipeg had the good series there. They probably shouldn't change too much going in the offseason, but their offense was impeccable. I feel like they got a lot of power plays and they got a lot of chances going, but Fleury was just a brick wall, and sometimes you can't really do anything about that. Other defense, it was okay. It wasn't the best. They allowed a lot of chances for Vegas, and of course Vegas scores on them because they usually do. But I felt like Winnipeg's defense, it was decent. Offensively, they were pretty decent, but defensively, they have some work to do. And although Winnipeg may have had some magic on their side, Vegas is probably the wizard there. They got as much magic as you possibly want. Vegas is the wizard of magic. I mean, Winnipeg had some magic, of course, going with Canada's team. It seemed like a lot of people in Canada were rooting for them. It just seemed like the luck wasn't on their side sometimes. I felt like they played like the better team, but they were just not able to get wins, and sometimes that's just what happens. So the Winnipeg Jets, I don't think that they should make any real hasty decisions because they still played pretty decent and probably should have made this at least a little bit closer. I think in 5 games was just incredible how Vegas Golden Knights were able to win this in 5 games because it was a lot closer series. I felt like Winnipeg was probably the better team throughout it. But Vegas on the Stanley Cup, who would have thought about this? I'll probably make a couple more videos about this in the future, but just the Stanley Cup champions could be the Vegas Golden Knights this season. They at least have a 50-50 chance, right? Going into it, the Vegas Golden Knights are the Western Conference champions. And it still hasn't sinked in after, 6 hours now? It has not sinked in, and I don't know if it ever will. It's just so crazy that I think it'll take a long time before this actually gets in everybody's mind that Vegas is the Western Conference champions. Looking on to who they'll face next, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals are facing off in their series in the Eastern Conference Final. Of course, that's in 6 games right now. Tampa leading at 3-2. I'll get into my thoughts when that series is over, but Tampa is looking likely to win that series unless the Washington Capitals do something crazy there that they've never really done before. So Tampa, Vegas, you guys know Tampa is my second favorite team. Vegas is my third favorite team. With this scenario, with this playoff scenario, I cannot dream of a better scenario right now. I'm already really happy with Vegas being here, and I would have taken that if you would have told me that at the start of the playoffs. But damn, if it could be Tampa versus Vegas, my dream scenario is happening, boys. Anyway, with that final, Tampa versus Vegas, exciting, fast, exhilarating, the series that kind of defense forgot, but both goaltenders are going to stand on their head. It's going to be an exhilarating, fast series. It might not have the storylines of a Washington versus Vegas or like a Winnipeg versus Washington, but it'll have the speed, it'll have the exciting hockey, and sometimes that's all that matters. But whether it's Washington or Tampa that Vegas is facing, it's going to be a good series nonetheless, and Vegas, has the rest above them. We'll see what happens, but with Tampa or Washington, I think that Vegas has the confidence. I don't think that they're going to seem like too big of a trouble. It's going to be a good series nonetheless. If it's Tampa or Washington, it's going to be a great series to watch. But again, a great series of the Winnipeg Jets. They haven't played very, very well. I felt like they were probably the better team, probably deserved to win this series. I felt like they put the better team. I feel like Fleury really saved the Golden Knights in a lot of these games, but I feel like Winnipeg had a great series, and they're really not going to be ashamed of there. And of course, Vegas, Western Conference champions. Who would have thought? But that's going up for today, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share with your friends if you haven't. Tell me down below what you thought of this series. What do you think of Vegas advancing the Stanley Cup Finals? And who do you think they'll face in the finals? And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.